This is Ethan, and I'm here with Dave, and together we are Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast, episode 190-inch.
On this episode, we present the fourth chapter of our Weird the Al Yankovic Story series, where we chronicle our time on the set of Weird the Al Yankovic Story, way back in February 2022.
It's Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
It's a podcast about Weird Al.
It's Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
Seriously, the whole podcast is about Weird Al.
Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
You don't have to listen, but we're glad you are.
Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
Aloha, listeners!
And we mean that as hello and not goodbye, since it is our understanding that it can mean both.
Dave, we've never podcasted in Hawaii.
Well, not until this week.
Well, thank you for tuning in to the fourth chapter of our experiences filming Weird the Al Yankovic Story.
And before we get into that fun, I think both of us and all of us can agree that it is time for
What's Happening in Steve J. What a Guy! Related news.
Steve J, the awesome bass player for Weird Al Yankovic, just surprise dropped a brand new album on his new website, StephenJmusic.com.
The album has 14 tracks, and that's no understatement because the album is called Understatement.
Now, according to Steve, from the album you can expect galaxies of bass lines mingle without wrecking, lyrics and melodies composed of more sky, escape-like secrets, like bubbles and luck.
The album features guest musicians including Ack and Zooey's Pete Gallagher, as well as Joe Higgs, Wayne Shorter, Howard Levy, and Rod Castro.
The new album Understatement is available as a pay what you want, so while you may decide you want to be a cheapskate, we both recommend paying at least $10.27 for this great collection of new music.
All right, Dave, I suppose now it's time for What's Happening in Weird Al Related News!
Your Friend Logan, the 4-track mind of Logan Whitehurst, is an upcoming documentary about gone too soon demented comedy musician Logan Whitehurst.
After a successful Kickstarter campaign in 2020, the team behind the documentary need just a little bit more of our support and will be launching an Indiegogo campaign this Friday, March 24th.
Now, why is this under Weird Al related news? Well, Weird Al himself will be in the documentary. He recorded an interview with the filmmakers, and you can see photos and clips on their social media.
So please join us in supporting this awesome documentary when it goes live on Indiegogo on Friday. We'll have information on how to support the documentary posted in our Facebook group over at group.2000inch.com, and also please be sure to follow them over at facebook.com/yourfriendlogan.
I know it's hard to believe, but we still have 2 more Weird Al shows to see this tour, and they both happen to be in Hawaii.
I can't believe we are seeing the final shows of Weird Al's tour again so soon after we did it just a few months ago.
Well, you can look forward to our full reviews of those Hawaiian shows, the first 5 2023 shows that Ethan attended, a European show featuring a very special guest, and of course, the Carnegie Hall review with tons and tons of guests.
When those are posted, they will go to our Patreon family first over at patreon.com/2000inch before dripping out to the general public.
Geez, now, these have really been taking so long to come out, Ethan, and I think we all know that is entirely the fault of our lousy intern, Frank.
I feel like our intern Frank is so ineffective lately that even if he was just some inside joke we have on the podcast and not a real person who does everything for us, you wouldn't be able to notice the difference.
Amen, I agree. And have you noticed that when you and I are both extra busy with work and travel in our personal lives, intern Frank just happens to slack off and put out less content?
Oh, I hate him so much, Dave.
Well, if you hate intern Frank as much as we do, and you also want to support the podcast and hear bonus episodes before the cheapskates do, be sure to sign up over at patreon.com/2000inch and join our pretty stinking majestic Patreon family.
We love our pretty stinking majestic Patreon family. We hope to have you on board.
This episode is brought to you in part by Discover Darwin, promoting tourism in Darwin, Minnesota. Not only is historic Darwin, Minnesota beautiful, it also reminds me a lot of Hawaii.
Dave, you do realize that Darwin, Minnesota is located in a landlocked state in the middle of the continental United States, like pretty much 1,200 miles from the nearest ocean? It's pretty much the opposite of Hawaii.
Well, that may be the case, but they do have pizza in Darwin, Minnesota, right?
Well, you already know the answer to that, Dave. We literally ate pizza together while we were in Darwin this past summer. Remember?
Ah, yes, I have fond memories of that. All right, so Darwin has pizza, and Hawaii is famous for putting pineapple on their pizza, so there's the connection.
Well, I have never had pineapple on my pizza.
Oh, you're missing out. It is absolutely delicious.
Well, Dave, you make a very, very convincing argument, but gotta pass.
All right, listeners, what do you think? Pineapple on pizza? Yes or no? Let us know over at our official Facebook group, group.2000inch.com.
So visit Darwin, Minnesota on your next pineapple pizza eating expedition. Discover Darwin, more than just the twine ball. And after you visit Darwin, Minnesota, be sure to attempt to visit discoverdarwin.biz.
It has been our pleasure to share our experiences on the set of We're the Al Yankovic Story with you, and we really, really want to thank you for all the great messages and comments that we have received.
We are just so thrilled that everyone has been enjoying these so much, and it means so much to us. When it was happening and we couldn't tell anyone, we were just way too excited and had to sit down and document as much as humanly possible to share with you, our podcast family.
In this episode's chapter, we will bring you through our lunch break and then back to the Cobra Pit for more filming, as well as special peeks into conversations we had with others on the set.
So without further ado...
All right, on the last episode, we left off where we were heading back to base camp on the People Movers for lunch.
Yes, so we finally get to base camp for lunch, and most people are already sitting there eating, and there's just everyone is buzzing around, and people are waiting in line, so I think pretty quickly, you and I, we just got in line.
Everybody else was in line. The way it was set up, they had this giant tent in the middle of the parking lot, which, was clearly, smoke was coming out of it. They were cooking stuff in there, basically it was the place, everyone was lined up there. You could tell that was the food tent. And then there was all these other tables, like folding tables set up, spaced, pretty far apart, and basically two chairs at each table and one on each end. And they were underneath white tents, and they were just filled with people eating food. So that basically was the setup. We got in line. It wasn't, a terribly long line. There was, 15 people ahead of us maybe, but it went pretty quickly. And then there was a little bulletin board, like a little whiteboard that had what was available, what you could order. You walk up to them, you tell them what you want, kind of sort of go down the line with them and tell them whether you want potatoes or whatever, and then you get to the end, they give you drinks and some snacks or some dessert if you want it, and then you go and you find an empty spot and you eat your lunch.
Yeah, so I'm looking at a menu that I found on the ground as we're leaving that day. So I might have a better memory since I can look at it of what I actually had, but I got some steamed broccoli, some roasted root vegetables, I had some Yukon potatoes, and then that was kind of the sides, and then they also had some chicken and some fish and some stuff, but they had teriyaki vegetable with soy crumble. That was the vegetarian option. So that's what I asked for, and they had barely any left. So the guy kind of scraped a little bit off the pan. He's like, sorry. So I didn't really get much of that. And then they had a couple options for salads. They had Caesar salad, green salad, tuna salad, Greek salad, and then peach and cottage cheese. I think I skipped out. None of those sounded good to me. And then they had a couple desserts, and they also had a couple drinks. So it was iced tea, lemonade, Arnold Palmer, or water. And I ordered a lemonade, and they handed me something brown, and it was not lemonade. So I assume it was either iced tea or Arnold Palmer, and I'm not really a fan of either. So I was kind of thirsty after lunch.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly what I know. I think there's probably orange chicken on there or something to that effect. I had that. And then there might have been some sort of steak. I had a couple pieces of that. Some potatoes, I believe. And for the drink, I can't remember if I had the Arnold Palmer or the iced tea. I don't
think
remember.
you ordered an Arnold Palmer. Who knows what you got? There also was some fruit salad.
Yes, I did get some fruit salad.
I got fruit salad.
Yes.
That's the salad I got, but it was like kind of waterlogged. I don't know if yours was. Mine, like it was sitting in like a bath of ice, and I think because we were sort of the last people to come through, like some water had gotten in, so mine kind of tasted weird. Yeah, Crafty was definitely better than the lunch situation.
You know what? Yeah, I mean, Crafty had a lot of options, and you could go as much as you want. So I mean, because I had been hitting Crafty a few times that morning, and because I was still nervous over everything going on. Yeah, I didn't. I ate just because I wanted to make sure I had something. But I don't know that I finished most of my lunch. I was a little nervous at that point. But I did try to force myself to eat just in case. I wouldn't have another opportunity in the afternoon.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, I feel the same way. It was. I was still nervous and excited at the same time. So we had our food, and then we're looking around like, who should we sit with? And obvious choice was sit with Jonah Ray. So
of course, if Jonah Ray is going to be hanging out with everybody under the the lunch tents, we're going to go sit with Jonah Ray.
And technically, he's the only one we know. So of course, we go over to the biggest celebrity eating lunch, and we sit right next to him. No, we went over. We're like, "Hey, Jonah." He's like, "Hey, guys." And we're like, "Can we eat with you?" He's like, "Absolutely." So he was sitting there. He was having lunch with Jeremy, who's the other band member that was the guy with the shaved head who I had to throw my underwear at. And so I think I we kind of introduced ourselves as like, "Hey, I throw my underwear at you." He's like, "Hey, you're doing a nice job," or something. So Jonah kind of introduced us to Jeremy, like how he knew us, and talked about doing the comedy shows with me, and then the live interview and UHF screening with us, doing our interviews, and it was really cool. And then Jeremy introduced himself, and I wish I remembered what band he was in, but he's a touring musician. He's in bands,
right?
So we're he was telling us about like he was getting ready to go out on tour again, and it was really cool to get to chat with him and meet him and get to chat with Jonah for a bit.
Yeah, I mean, that was a fun conversation. I'm glad we, got to sit, and I'm glad, again, everybody there, extremely friendly, and you just, you're walking up on, I mean, Jonah Ray knows us, we've chatted with him multiple times. He's been on our podcast a couple of times, but, here's, this other guy who we've never met before who, is happy to talk to us, and have a great conversation with us. Everybody there is incredibly nice throughout the whole time.
And so it was kind of funny because Jonah typically wears glasses, so he wasn't in the film, but he still had his eye makeup on. So he had like this crazy eye makeup on and then glasses on top of it, which was really funny. And I think they were kind of talking about that a little bit, which was really funny.
Yeah.
So we had, probably 5 to 10 minutes with Jonah and Jeremy, and then they got pulled off to do makeup. They'd already finished eating by the time we came over, so
yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure they got the full hour lunch. I'm sure they didn't get the half hour deal that we got.
Yeah.
So yeah, they had eaten their lunch and were kind of hanging around chatting with us when they realized that the time and they needed to get back to makeup. Because they still had more scenes they had to shoot. We're shooting later this afternoon as well.
So we had like maybe a minute of just Dave and I eating. And someone comes over and sits with us, and it's none other than director, co-writer, Eric Appel.
I know, how awesome. I was blown away. I mean, that Eric came over and basically, he sits down with us and he starts chatting with us like he's our old friend, you know? It was really incredible experience. Here's this guy, that we're basically these easily replaceable extras in his movie, and here he is going out of his way, to make us feel like stars, chatting with us on the set, sitting, eating lunch with us, he's got a million things going on and he takes, some time out to come over and talk to us. I mean, I was incredibly blown away with how nice Eric was, how well he treated us. He's
just a super stand-up guy and really above and beyond what you'd expect from, someone who's running this whole show, essentially.
Yeah.
He comes over and he's like, gosh, I feel like I know you guys already because he's a regular listener of the podcast. So, he hears us being nerdy and, so we got to geek out a little bit. Like, we're saying how excited we are to be there. And he's like, isn't it great? Like, he's obviously a huge fan. So, I think he liked having the opportunity to geek out because, everyone else, it's a job to them, it's like, but to us and to him, it's like, we're working with Weird Al on a Weird Al movie.
I know. Yeah, he was clearly having fun. I mean, he's got a lot of responsibilities. Obviously, he wants his movie to be successful. He wants to put out a good product. He wants everything like that. But he also wants to have fun. We could tell that he must be, the little experience that we got to work with him, he was a fun director to work with, a fun person. I can imagine the whole film, just how excited he is about this film, and just working on this film, I think just is going to translate so well into everybody else that's working on this film and this final product of this film. If it is a half of like the energy that Eric gave, when he was with us, like going into this film, it's going to be an incredibly fun experience.
Yeah, now I don't know how much we want to get into the rest of our conversation with Eric, because I'm sure we're going to want to interview him and talk about all this stuff on the podcast. So I don't know. I don't want to spoil any of that stuff, but essentially we're just like, we told him how excited we are and, we're going to keep our mouths shut. And somehow it came up. He wanted us to tell him all the spoilers that we already knew.
Right.
So the same stuff that we talked about on bonus episode 1 centimeter, where like all the rumors we heard, he basically just wanted to hear it all, and he's like, how do you guys know this stuff? And he was like confirming ones, and he's like, oh, that changed, that this is gonna be different. And the biggest thing that had changed was who was playing Dr. Demento.
Right. Yeah. So, we mentioned that we had seen Patton Oswalt and he had his foot up in a cast, and Eric confirmed with us that, yes, that Patton was originally scheduled to play Dr. Demento, but since he ended up breaking his foot, he no longer could play that part.
Yeah, he had just broken his foot like a few days before this.
Yeah, we didn't even know. I mean, I had no idea going in. When I saw Patton in a cast, I was pretty surprised. I hadn't heard anything about him breaking his foot prior to seeing it broken.
So he said, ultimately Patton will not be Dr. Demento. So we're like, well, who's going to be Dr. Demento? And so he said that, this was all super last minute. And so this is Monday the 14th that we're on set and we're talking to him. And he's like, yeah, over the weekend, I was on phone calls all weekend. And we ultimately were able to last minute sign on Rainn Wilson, of course, he plays Dwight on The Office, to be Dr. Demento, which is a great choice. Come on.
Oh, that's an incredible guy, especially at the last minute. That's an incredible guy. He's an incredible actor. I think he's going to blow it away as Dr. Demento. It's unfortunate for Patton. Eric did say that Patton will have a small part somewhere in the movie. He's most likely going to be the gentleman who yells, "You suck," in the scene that we had shot earlier in the morning.
Yeah, so I think actually what happened was those 10 or so people that got pulled in, where we originally were pulled in and then told to leave, that was the "You Suck" scene where they were filming Patton. So that's why Patton was there. That's why we saw him. He filmed his "You Suck," and they just wanted to kind of a little bit of a crowd around him because it was a tight shot. So that was ultimately what that was. So it was so cool getting to talk to him. And we're geeking out. We're like, well, we saw that there is a Jim Bermuda and a Steve. Like, who are these guys? What can you tell us? And so, he told us about them and how they wanted them to look kind of like them. And it was, it was so cool. And then kind of one of the most exciting things that he talked about, at least for Dave and I, was we were saying, like, is Daniel going to be singing the songs as Al, or is Al singing them? And I don't know. I'm still amazed about this, Dave.
Yeah, so he actually confirmed that Al and his real band, not the fake movie band,
like
his
real
band
Bermuda,
members,
real
Bermuda, the real Jim, the real Ruben, the real Steve, they re-recorded all of the music that is going to be used in the film.
So technically, while for something like the scene that we're in, it's not a new song. Like, obviously, there have already been recordings of "I Love Rocky Road." It's a brand new recording of that. recorded just for the film. So we are, with that news, we're like, oh my God, is there going to be a soundtrack? Is there going to,
Right.
He's like, guys, you're going to get to hear it when we film that scene. Don't worry about it. So we were just like so excited.
Yeah. I don't think it's way too early to be thinking about whether there's a soundtrack or not, but I mean, we did put the idea in his head, so maybe there will be a soundtrack that comes out of this. Hopefully,
Oh,
please,
I hope
please.
so. I hope so. And then we were, because we'd seen a couple people like really take it seriously. This is a biopic of Weird Al. So we're like, are people going to watch this and think like this is really, Al's story?
Right.
And so he's like, no, like after 40 minutes into the movie or so, like it's going to be quite obvious that this is made up.
Right.
So at the time of us recording, we have a couple ideas of some of the directions it might go in, but we really don't know what's going to happen.
No, yeah.
I cannot wait to see this.
Yeah, so we were pressing Eric a little bit about trying to get any information out of him that we could, and he was pretty tight-lipped on a lot of it, but when we were giving him the rumors about who we had heard who was playing Al's father in the movie,
so he did confirm that both John Hamm and Matt Dillon were in talks, but he said ultimately it's going to be someone else, but he wouldn't tell us who was going to be the father at that point. Or maybe it wasn't locked in. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, at this point, if you're listening to this, the movie's out, you already know that. But at this point, we have no idea who he's talking about at this point, who the new actor's name is going to be. That's going to be playing Al's father.
He was talking about the scene that we're filming and how it's like one of, if not his favorite scene in the whole film.
Right.
And he was giving us a little bit of backstory. So he's like, the band Skunk Barf, who you guys are like throwing underwear and bricks at, he's like, actually earlier in the film, Al auditions to be in their band and he doesn't get in. So there's, I guess, a whole other scene with Jonah and Johnny and Jeremy. So
that's cool. Yeah.
It'll be really cool to get to see that finally.
Yeah. And the other piece of information he gave us a little bit of backstory about the characters, Jim, Steve, and Bermuda. And obviously not in real life, this didn't happen, but in the movie version, Steve, Jim, and Bermuda were Al's roommates.
Right. And I guess in the film, like, at that point, Al doesn't even know that they play instruments. So,
right.
Like the whole joke is that he's just on stage, like kind of bombing a little bit. And then Bermuda and Jim and Steve run on stage and just pick up Skunk Barf's instruments and start playing. And
yeah. So he was pretty open. I mean, he was very tight-lipped on a lot of things, but if it was a scene that we were going to, see later on that afternoon, he was okay with sharing some stuff, giving us a little backstory, helping us out a little bit, giving us, he's excited about this and he's very, you could tell just talking to Eric how excited he is about this movie.
And I think it was less like he doesn't want to spoil it for us because he knows how much we're going to enjoy the movie. So he wants to keep some of it a mystery for us, just for our own,
Yeah.
I like that. Like, yes, I would, plant my butt down and listen to him talk about the movie for an hour, but there is going to be something real magical about finally seeing the movie and getting to be surprised at all the other stuff that's in there.
Yeah, no, I understand. Yeah, I appreciate what Eric is doing for us by not telling us everything as much as I want to hear everything. I think we were probably among some of the last people to leave, to head back over to the Virgil. I know Eric ran off and then we kind of cleaned up and there was a handful of people still kind of finishing up their lunch. And we got back on the People Movers. We headed back to the Virgil. And I don't think we had too much time to really do much other than put our stuff down before we got called right back into the Virgil.
So they brought us back in to do that scene again. So I picked up my number 27 beer.
Right. Yeah, we're still wearing, I guess, they didn't make us take off all the jewelry or anything like that. I'm still wearing my rings. You're still wearing your necklace.
Right. So we go back in, but this time it wasn't just this group B, this front of the audience, which maybe they were doing like kind of close-up shots, so they needed more room. So this time it was even further back, I guess. So they had the whole, 40 or so bikers in there.
Everybody came inside, and yeah, like you said, I think the cameras were further back on this one, so they had, to fill up more space. And we shot the same scene that we had shot in the morning. They went over the scene again because obviously there were new people in there who needed to know what was going on, and they basically told us in the front to do what we did in the morning.
Yeah.
And they added some other props. I know that popcorn flying around, and I guess I don't know if we mentioned this in the other episode about what we talked about in the morning, but, besides us throwing, our bricks and our underwear up on stage, there were crew members standing off to the side, and they were throwing things like wrenches and...
Yeah, planks of wood and...
planks of wood
fish,
and pipes
the fish.
and
I
stuff.
didn't see any of the cat get thrown, but I did see some fish get thrown.
The fish got thrown. And it was really funny, too. After each scene, they shot each scene a couple times, a handful of times. People would be running around. Hey, where's the fish? Where's the fish line?
Right.
Hey, where's the brick? Where's the underwear? And they'd have to, people be like, hey, give me the brick, whatever. It's funny. Hey, I had some popcorn. Yeah, I couldn't really see much what was going on behind us. We're standing,
Right, 'cause
remember,
we're
at the front of the
row. Yeah.
stage, and our focus is up at Skunk Barf up on stage. So, I mean, we can't really see who's throwing what behind us or anything like that. But, we get the general idea of what's going on.
We filmed this part again a couple times, the camera behind us. And one really crazy thing happened. So, people are throwing popcorn and popcorn's like falling on Dave and I. Someone's like falling on my drink. Well, then one of these times someone throws this giant, rubber wrench, and I don't know what happened, but somehow it landed perfectly inside my beer. It splashed all over me, and I was just stunned. So, I sort of acted as if I was really in a bar and a wrench really did fall in my beer. I was just like stunned and like kind of showing people like, look what happened, So I hope that makes it in the film because that was crazy.
I hope so too, because even like when the prop guy was coming around to collect all the props up again,
Yeah, he was like, did you put that in there or did it land like that?
And you're like, no, it landed. And he's like, that is so awesome.
Yeah, he's like, I'm impressed that you kept holding the beer. But it landed. I was still in character, so, you don't lose the beer. A biker never drops his beer.
No, a biker never would lose the beer. Wrenches flying around, pipes and bricks. Yeah, no, protect the beer at all costs. Yeah, so I mean, there, we had a little time, as they were, resetting everything. We actually got to talk a little bit more with our stunt double fighter friend, Thomas. We kind of asked him, how he got involved with, this film, and he ended up letting us know that he was friends with Daniel. He worked with Daniel Radcliffe on another movie together. They had just finished up not that long ago, and he had been with him for several months, and over that time, they ended up becoming good friends.
Yeah, so he was also saying how he has a couple other scenes in the movie. He said later on there's a scene he's filming where it's kind of like a increasing boss battle with chefs or something, and he's like, he's gonna be the final like baddest chef, and he's gonna get his face pressed in a waffle iron or something.
All right. I cannot wait to see that.
Yeah.
That sounds hysterical. If that's in the film, what else is in this film? I mean, that is just insane. This film is going to be hysterically funny. We also asked him a little bit about, because we had heard the rumor that, they're shooting this in like 18 days. And that seems, I know nothing about making a movie or the film industry. That seems pretty short to me. So we asked him, based on other films and other stuff that he's been in, how does this film line up as far as, the time frame, needed to shoot it? And he's pretty much confirmed that this is a pretty quick shoot, and he's let us know that he spent 4 months in South America, working with Daniel on the last movie. So, 4 months compared to 18 days, you could pretty much,
And I believe he was actually a character in the film, not just like a stunt guy in that film. So I'm actually really excited to see it and see our buddy Thomas in The Lost City.
The Lost City, right. And his full name, Thomas Forbes Johnson.
Yes, and we've since reached out to him on Instagram, and he has like 10,000 plus followers, and we're like, we're hoping we can set up an interview with him after the film comes out just to talk about his experience working with us.
That's right. I mean, at this point, it's all about us.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many takes we took of this. Maybe like 4 or 5. It felt like each one to me, like in my untrained, unprofessional director eye here, it felt like each one was getting better and better. And by the end, I was like, that's the one. And then Eric was like, all right, that's the one.
I doubt they'll use just like one of the takes. I'm sure they'll kind of splice in here and there, that kind of stuff. Yeah,
it'd be interesting to see how they piece it together, because it's, like you said, they're shooting, this multiple times and from multiple angles, and it'd be very interesting to see how it works out in the final piece.
I'm putting this out in the universe. I hope that the wrench falling in my beer makes it the final cut.
If it doesn't make it into the final cut, at least hopefully there'll be like an outtakes, bloopers reel or something that it can make it into.
There should be a whole blooper reel of just footage of you and I, being novice extras. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, so scene's over. They send us back out to holding, and Ethan, you go put your beer in spot number 27 again.
Of course, Dave.
Good.
I actually just kept the underwear with me at this point because they didn't collect it, and I was like, I don't want to lose it, so I just stuffed it in my pocket, of my vest. Because I'll tell you, Dave, it's very complicated throwing underwear because I didn't want it to be like, I'm just standing there with underwear ready to throw. So there was sort of like this pocket inside the jacket. And whenever I would grab it, I sort of would squat down a little bit. So it seemed like that perhaps I was ripping the underwear out of wearing it. That was sort of like, I doubt you'll even see that nuance in the film, but I tried to be as accurate as possible with my underwear throwing.
And that's fair. I mean, they didn't really tell us, why we were holding bricks or underwear or pipes or wrenches or fish or anything. And I wasn't sure if we were supposed to show that or not. So, I mean, at least for me, I held my brick to the side where it most likely wouldn't have been picked up on camera until I actually needed to lift it up and throw it at Jonah. So I don't know what's going to end up looking like in the final cut. But, I was like, I'm just making my own, call on this one. I'm just going to hide the brick until it's actually necessary.
In all reality, there's probably like a fraction of a second of us. You know, it's mainly on the band getting pelted and beat up. They're not really going to be focusing on the people in the audience. But we had to be accurate. Dave,
who knows? Who knows? Maybe we're the stars of this scene.
Yeah, who knows? So they send us back outside after doing a couple takes, and the idea is they're going to be resetting the scene, so now they're filming the audience from the stage point of view, so they can kind of show, what's going on from Skunk Barf's point of view.
Perspective, yes.
So we're out there waiting a little bit. I don't think anything notable happened. It wasn't all that long.
No, it wasn't that long.
And so they brought us back in, and they put us back in our spots, but now we are not actually touching the stage because there is a camera track right where we're standing, and that's where the cameras are. So there's like a guy on a camera track, and then there's a guy on stage with the camera, and there's like sound people, and they're holding microphones out, and we're essentially just going to be redoing that scene again, just from the front view.
Right. So, our friend Thomas, he's standing behind us, and, he basically, we're chatting with him again, and he's like, listen, guys, this is the scene where, our faces are going to be on camera. He says, I've been an extra, I've been an actor in a lot of films, and a lot of times, you'll look back at something and you'll just see yourself standing there, and you'll be like, oh, I really wish I did this, or I really wish, I had acted a little bit more differently. So what we're going to do is we're going to come up with our own little,
like side thing.
Side thing. Yeah. And we're just going to do it, and we're going to not tell anyone we're doing it. We're just going to do it and just do it. And if they tell us not to do it, then we won't. But we're just going to basically do it and then beg for forgiveness later.
Right. And he's like, likely, they won't care or they'll like it, so it won't matter. But, just if they do say something, like, obviously we'll, change it up.
Right. So he was like, tell we were up for having some fun, and we were, he was having a lot of fun too, I think, working with us, pushing his way through us. So he's like, here's what we're going to do. He says, I'm going to tap you, Ethan, on the back, so the camera can't see it. But that's going to be your cue to kind of look at me and be like, what the heck is going on up on stage? And then, Dave, I'm going to do the same thing to you. And you're going to look at me, and we're going to kind of look at each other like, what the heck's going on? And then I'm going to push through you guys and rush the stage. We're like, that's awesome. Let's do it,
It was awesome. Yeah, so we definitely did that each time. Like, you would tap and look, and, we're tough bikers, but this guy, Thomas, is a big dude with big muscles.
Yeah, he's tall. He's a big
scary
guy.
looking dude. So that was awesome. And it was so funny. And
a couple interesting things just to know. Remember that the cameras are directly in front of us on the floor and on the stage, and Thomas has to run through us and he has to jump up on the stage. He can't do that because the cameras are there. So he's got to be very careful as he pushes through us not to, hit any of the camera people or sound people or anything. A couple other things they had done is they had given Thomas a pipe which he had to throw, and he's like, I didn't throw this before, and they're like, it's okay, don't worry about it. So he's like, I can't throw so where do I throw the pipe, and they're like, oh, well, just throw it off to the side, and it'll look like you're throwing it up on stage. He's like, okay, so he had to throw a pipe before he rushed up on stage,
and he couldn't, like before he would just separate us and then jump straight on stage,
right?
But because the camera guy's there, he had to push us and then kind of go to the left.
Yeah.
Stage right.
Yeah, right. And then the other, there's another gentleman in the audience who was also a stunt double on the other side, and they gave him like the giant 2x4 to throw or something like that, And he had to do basically the same thing, run through the crowd and run up, pretend he was running up on stage.
Well, but for him with the 2x4, they didn't want him actually throwing it. It was fake. So this guy's a professional. He's like, I'll pretend to throw it, but it will look like I really threw it. And Dave and I are standing there right next to the guy, and he pretends to throw it, and it looked like he threw it. Like,
right.
It's so cool to see all the talent around us. These people know what they're doing, and Dave and I are just like, hi, everybody.
Yeah, he's like, I'll throw the 2x4, and it'll look like I threw it up on stage, and then when my arm comes down, I'll swing it around my back and throw it off to the side, and you won't even know it, And we're like, he did it.
He explained it. He did it right next to us, and it still looked like he threw it.
Yeah, it was incredible.
Really cool. I hope that makes it in. I hope all this makes it in. I hope the whole movie is just us in the scene.
just. And at this point, I think this is the first time I heard anybody say, oh, this is scene number 25.
Right.
So we actually had a scene number to go with, like what we were doing. So I don't know what that means for anything. It's obviously not going to say scene 25. I don't think it will up on the movie or anything like that, but just some background information. That scene, where we're interacting with Skunk Barf is scene 25.
So we do that scene a couple times. What the notable crazy thing that happened. I guess the first notable crazy thing was when I got hit in the head with a brick. The second notable thing that happened was when the wrench fell in my beard. So now this third time we're there, the notable thing is I throw the underwear and it lands on the end of the microphone that they're holding out to the crowd. Perfectly. So the next time I throw it, it hits the camera guy in the face.
Oh, jeez.
I'm not aiming for anyone. I'm just aiming to throw it. And, there's not like someone being like, and throw it. It's just like, you're kind of doing it. There's a lot of chaos going on. So, yeah, I felt bad. The guy had a good laugh about it. And, yeah, were you throwing the brick still for that scene?
It's funny because the first time I was like, there's so many people on stage, I didn't know where to throw the brick. So I sort of fake threw the brick. I took a cue from our, the stunt double, I was like, that's a good idea. I'm going to fake throw the brick. So I kind of fake threw the brick and I held on to it because if I threw it, I was going to hit somebody and I didn't really want to do that. And the second time I saw an opening, so I threw it and I know it hit the drum.
Oh, cool.
I heard it kind of hit the drum, boom. And then they didn't give it back to me for the third time we did it. So me and the gentleman next to me who was holding the full-size brick, we're both looking at each other like, we didn't get our props back. And I'm like, what do we do? And he's like, we just fake it. I'm like, all right. So we didn't throw anything for the third take. So I may or may not, depending on which take they use of that, I may or may not be throwing the brick.
Well, and so, they had to get my underwear back to me because I was the underwear throwing gentleman. Everyone knew that I was the underwear guy. And so, like, I didn't want to, like, interrupt, like, what they're doing. Like, there's camera guys and stuff. So, like, between scenes, I just was, like, kind of trying to be polite, and I wasn't, like, going, and they're like, oh, you can just go and grab the underwear each time. It's fine. So I had to, like, go over and grab the underwear. It was, like, in the track of the, you know, thing. He was on the stage, and so I just went over and reached for it. That's what they told me to do. So, yeah, so that was pretty great. And I think we shot that maybe another 4 or 5 times from the front.
Every scene we were shooting went pretty quickly. We only shot a handful of times. But another interesting thing about this scene is, now remember, it's the camera looking out over the audience. So this is the scene, remember, where Dr. Demento is in the bar. So this is the first time that Dr. Demento would be visible in the crowd. And Dr. Demento, he was sort of in the back off to, I guess, as you're looking out over the audience, off to the right side, sitting at a table. He really wasn't close enough to us that we could kind of see him.
Oh yeah,
and obviously
not at all.
We're looking towards the stage the entire time. So I didn't really get a good look at him, but my understanding from kind of what I picked up is that his role is just to sit perfectly still and not react at all while everyone is fighting and screaming and yelling.
And
things are flying, chaos around him. He's just sitting there kind of just looking up at the stage.
Yep, just, you know, being this weird kind of guy and this out of place guy and this, you know, horrible biker bar.
Right. He's a guy in a top hat and a tuxedo sitting in a biker bar.
So they then, you know, that we're done with that scene and they were going to go shoot scene 26.
Right.
So they sent us back out to holding as we were awaiting our return, which was to be scene number 27.
27. Yeah, scene 27. Exciting.
And, you know, of course, scene 27 is going to be where Daniel Radcliffe as Weird Al comes out on stage. So we're so excited. We're finally going to see what he looks like as Weird Al. And I think this is a great time to take a break, Dave.
Yeah, I think we're really excited to get to, you know, we know we're going to see Daniel Radcliffe, aka Weird Al, for the first time. We know it's going to be scene 27, which we're really excited about. Well, that's it for Chapter 4 of our Weird the Al Yankovic story series. Stay tuned for more chapters on future episodes.
And as you're listening to the series, if you have any questions for us about the filming, please leave us a message on the 347 Spatula Hotline, the official hotline of Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast, and we'll do our best to answer them on a future episode.
Well, that was apropos. All right, intern Frank, let's hear it.
Hey, Dave and Ethan, Ajax here. And I'm really enjoying the Weird Stories series that you got going on. Just checked out Chapter 3, and wow, I love Chapter 3 so much because it really it showcases your chemistry and your attention to detail. And you did ask if anyone had any questions, and I got one for you. My question, when you guys were talking about the Skunk Barf band, and my question is this: if you had one dream opener, and of course Emo's perfect, but if you had one dream opener for Weird Al, who would it be? Excited for Chapter 4. Thanks, guys.
Hey, we meant questions for us about our experiences on set, but I suppose we left it a little open-ended, and obviously you guys are always welcome to leave us questions and messages, and we'll do our best to answer them.
Who would we want to see open for Weird Al? Well, obviously, and really you shouldn't have to ask this, obviously we'd want to see Ethan, Christian, and the Eligible Spatulars with special guest me on cowbell, opening for Weird Al.
Thanks for the call, Ajax! All right, Frank, sounds like we got another call on the 347 Spatula Hotline. Let's hear it.
Hey, Dave, Ethan, and not Frank! This is your boy, Sheepdog David Grant, a.k.a. Sebastian Shepard, a.k.a. MC Chalk. You know it. You get the point. I just wanted to call because I had a dream come true, folks. I got to work on a vocal lesson, a voice lesson, a singing lesson with the great Lisa Popeil, former guest of the show, often collaborator with Al, one of the Al's gals, and sister to Ron Popeil. And I just got to tell you, it was an incredible experience. She is such a warm, lovely, beautiful woman. And I got to learn a lot in just 1 hour with her doing some vocal lessons. So if anybody out there is interested in getting the same type of coaching that Al got, I really highly recommend getting in contact with Lisa Popiel and singing with her, because it was awesome. This is not my range. I am embarrassing myself. Okay, bye-bye!
Hey, David Grant, aka MC Choskin, aka you get the point. This is so very cool that you got a voice lesson from the great and talented Lisa Popiel.
Now, I was actually exchanging messages with Lisa Popiel recently, and she even mentioned to me that you took a lesson with her and that you were both a terrific guy and a very good singer.
Well, that's obviously because David Grant has been taking lessons from me on how to be a terrific guy and also a very good singer.
Whatever your name happens to be today, thank you for the call. We appreciate it.
Ooh, we've got another message on the 347 Spatula Hotline. I'm excited. Let's hear this one.
Hey, Dave and Ethan. Thought I'd call in and give you guys a little bit of Irish burrito to celebrate St. Patrick's Day. Ta clar na shaktinya sho tugta puget e bart eg biamlin Mexico vegan burrito sha Troy nuov Eric. Balia ande hunt filcha dualcha e quesadillo burrito. Tar huig burrito agus burrito do burrito. On Troy go Alvin go Chirenus. Kotien burrito na dionye ograk gambia buahe planti ardalvin. Amshig iad eg burritosquared.com agus at burritosquared our Instagram. Agus kuvni ni burrito gak burrito. Akis fager burritoed al wa gak burrito. Akis fager burritoed al way gak burrito.
Wow! Thanks, William! While I have no idea what words you were actually saying, conveniently, I know exactly what you were trying to say.
Well, nothing screams Irish like vegan Mexican food. From all of us here at David Ethan's 2008 Weird Al podcast, happy St. Patrick's Day, and thanks for the call, Will.
Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast is brought to you absolutely free thanks to our incredible sponsors, Burrito, Jackson Scoggins, and Discover Darwin. Our podcast is also supported by everyone else in our Patreon family, with special thanks to our amazing close personal friend level Patreon supporters. Matthew, Kenneth, Gus and Alicia, Allison, Adriana, Ajax, Jake, Zeb, Zach, Dana B, Blair, Kev, Javier, Scott, UH Jeff, Nancy, Mike, and also thanks to Jeff M. and everyone else in our pretty stinking majestic Patreon family.
If you enjoy our historically accurate Weird Al podcast, please consider supporting us at patreon.com/2000inch. There are awesome benefits like getting your name on the podcast, your very own private RSS feed, which gives you early access to each and every single bonus episode, and of course the self-satisfaction of doing something important with your otherwise pitiful, meaningless existence.
And now would be a great time to join if you haven't already, because not only will you be the first to hear our longest ridiculously self-indulgent bonus episode to date, which happens to be our concert review from the world-famous Carnegie Hall in New York City, you'll also be the first to hear our brand new 2023 ridiculously self-indulgent bonus episodes once they drop. Intern Frank.
And don't forget to check out our official merchandise shop over at shop.2000inch.com. All proceeds from purchases go directly towards supporting our super fine podcast. If you're heading to Hawaii like Ethan will be doing very soon, or are already in Hawaii like I am, be sure to pick up your very own official Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast tote bag to carry all your belongings. We have 4 great options to choose from over at shop.2000inch.com.
We love hearing from our listeners and other Weird Al fans, so be sure to join our Facebook community at group.2000inch.com, and be sure to visit our Discord server for even more riveting Weird Al and Red Rum Tragudi related conversations. You can find both of them linked on our website, as well as information about past episodes and guests over at weirdalpodcast.com or 2000inch.com.
And while you're there, click on ridiculously self-indulgent bonus episodes to follow along with our adventures on tour. And click on Black and White and Weird All Over bonus episodes and follow along on our special series where author John Bermuda Schwartz walks us through his first book, page by page and picture by picture.
Keep up on new episodes, podcast news, and events by following at 2000 Inch on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And be sure to subscribe everywhere you listen to podcasts so you don't miss a single episode. Not only does subscribing help the podcast, 4 out of 5 dentists agree it protects you from having random coconuts fall on your head.
Plus, we also love getting voicemail on our 347 Spatula Hotline, the official hotline of Dave and Ethan's 2000 Inch Weird Al podcast. That number is 347-772-8852. Put it in your phone right now and give us a call at any time. You might even hear your message in a future episode.
For this episode, we want to thank once again us for recording these Weird the Al Yankovic Story chapters last year. We also want to thank Ajax, William King, David Grant, aka Sebastian Shepard, aka MC Chalkskin, Ireland Henry, Zach Sherwin, Steve J, what a guy, Marnie Farlow, and Christina Rodriguez. Thank you to the Grammy Award-winning Jim Kimo West for incredible podcast theme song, and thank you to Weird Al Yankovic, as this podcast probably would not exist without him. And a big thanks to all of you, our loyal listeners, subscribers, Patreon supporters, and sponsors, and everyone else who makes our podcast possible.
Thank you for choosing Dave and Ethan's 2000 Inch Weird Al podcast. And until we meet again, remember to gill and chill.
Aloha, listeners!
And we mean that as goodbye and not hello, since it is our understanding that it can mean both.
Dave, I'm so excited and looking forward to seeing Weird Al and his band and Emo perform in Hawaii in just a few short days. I'm heading out very soon, and you're already there!
What? Huh? Sorry, did you say something? I'm busy swinging in a hammock, sipping my virgin pina colada, and not paying any attention to anything except for the waves crashing on the beach.
I don't blame you. You know what I just thought of? I finally get to see Grammy Award-winning Jim Kimo West perform in his natural element.
Oh, that is going to be so cool. Do you think he'll perform any of his original songs live up on stage during those concerts?
That would be pretty stinking majestic. I wouldn't mind hearing him perform one particular Grammy Award-winning Jim Kimo West song again.
Ah, yes, me too. It would be a great bookend for the tour. Now, how's that tune go again?
That was Dave and Ethan's 2000 Inch Weird Al Podcast, episode 190 Inch.
Ahooey ho-oh.
We kind of introduce ourselves as like, hey, I throw my underwear at you. He's like, hey, you're doing a nice job. Ahooey here. I should have read this. Ahooey hoo ow. Ahooey hoo ow. Ahooey ho oh ooh. Oh. Ahooey ho-ooey. Ahooey ho. Ahooey ho. Oh, you?
That was Dave and Ethan's 2000.
You think mine was satisfactory? You're just ready to move on?
Ahooey. Ahooey hoa ooh ah. No. Why do I?
You're giving me crap.
I never said I could do it. Ahooey hoa ooh. Ahooey hoa ooh. Ahooey hoa ooh.
And that means until we meet again. I suppose we could have just said that.